Rush, welcome to episode 10. Happy birthday, episode 10.
Yes, mate. 10, we're here. We made it. When do you become official podcasters, by the way? What number
10.
podcast?
10.
Oh, yeah, cool.
Yeah, we're official podcasters.
Official, mate. Official.
I dressed for the occasion. I see that you didn't.
What? Because you've come in your Ollie Murs shirt from 2002. Mate, it's 2020 now.
I'm bringing denim back, mate. You don't know what I got jeans on as well. Canadian tuxedo.
No, you haven't. No, everyone's wearing shorts on their bottom half in this
mate,
today's world.
I'm very set up now, so I'm not going to move, but I've definitely got jeans on.
What? Denim jeans? Obviously denim jeans.
Yeah, mate, denim jeans.
What, denim the same? Jeans. No. Are you seriously rocking double denim?
Yeah, I've been doing that for a long time.
Yeah, fair play, mate. Fair play. It's 2020. You be who you want to be.
Authentic.
Be your most authentic self.
Be my best self. Unleash my superpowers. All the Mavericks Unlimited mottos in one. So I thought 10 episodes in, we should mark it with a specific kind of conversation. So I'm going to ask you to go back to when you were 10 years old. Right?
Okay.
And I want you to share some memories, a memory or two memories from when you were 10 years old. So seeing as I just landed it on you, I'm going to offer you the chance to either go now, if you can remember what you were doing at 10, or I'm happy to kind of just start the flow.
Mate, I want you to, I think I want you to start. I need to think.
Okay. So I'm going to give my age away now, but I was 10 years old in 1989. And I have two memories that kind of really popped out straight away. One was good and it was fun. One was just I remember even being struck at the time, and it's just still, stays with me. So the first one, 1989, was the summer of Batman, the Michael Keaton movie, Tim Burton. The world went Batman crazy. And I remember being in the playground and I was collecting cards and we had doubles and we were trading. I just remember my entrepreneurial instincts were coming out back then. You give me 5 for this one and da. But yeah, I was so excited about it coming out. Had the cards, the toys were coming out, the world was going crazy. And then I didn't have anyone to take me to see the movie. So I had to beg basically this cousin to, because everyone wanted to watch it with their mates and stuff. No one wanted to take a 10-year-old, but yeah, watch him with him. And it was, it was amazing. What a brilliant movie. And it's always stuck with me. The second one was, there's an iconic image of a man in Tiananmen Square standing in front of the tanks, right? Mm-hmm. And that was the summer of 1989. And I remember seeing it. I remember seeing everything that was going on in the news, but not really paying attention to it, But I just remember the image more than obviously they weren't going to show that footage. I don't think they showed the footage. I just remember the image, and I just remember what there was just unrest, and I didn't know much about it, but just that image has just sort of stuck with me in my head. So those are two things I remember from me being 10 in 1989. So what about you?
Do you know what? For me, it's a little bit different, because when I was 10, it wasn't a good time for me really in my life. So I'm sat here thinking I don't want to somber the mood by bringing it down. So I'm trying to think. I'll tell you what year it was. It's a bit of a different year to your year.
No, 2000.
It was 1997. 1997 when I was 10 years old.
That was the year I left secondary school.
When you were saying all this stuff about 89, I was thinking, mate, I'd just been born. I was 2. So yeah, 1997, when I was 10 years old, my memory, you got to understand that my memory of anything but before 15, 16 is mainly traumatic things that happened to me and not very good. But when I reckon when I was about 10 years old, what year are you in at school at 10 years old? Like year 5, innit? year
Oh, it
5
was it
school.
was even called different things back in the day.
Yeah, like so
I was
junior
just about to
school.
go into first year
Yeah.
of secondary school the following after that summer.
So I'd probably just moved to a new school. So when my dad died, I was about 9 years old when my dad died, and then we moved across town to a different school, and I started this new school. And I went from a multicultural school where we didn't wear school uniform or anything like that, and we used to celebrate every single faith and religion. We would do like all of it, and I went from that school to a school that was much more of like a Christian school where you had to wear a shirt and a tie and stuff like that. And I remember getting into the football team, mate. It was called Grange School with Mr. Barrett. Mr. Barrett was known locally as being a little bit of a hero with the young lads. I think he's passed away, by the way, now. And yeah, that's when football really started to become a real meaningful and passionate thing for me, because Mr. Barrett sort of really believed in me as a football player. He got me trials at Swindon Schoolboys, and he taught me the infamous in my footballing ability: if in doubt, put it out. And that's about as good as my footballing ability has stayed to now. If in doubt,
that's your
put
game
it
now,
out.
isn't it? Hoof the ball out.
Just hoof the ball out, mate. Yeah. So that's good. What a nice way to start, and a nice memory for me to have. It was all downhill from there for the next few years, but
We're here now, eh? You made it through.
I'm here now as an official podcaster on the 10th episode.
Mr. Barrett has we got a lot to thank him for.
Oh, a lot to listen, mate. That's why now I'm Marlborough Town in my veins, Marlborough Town legend as a result of what Mr. Barrett taught me.
Brilliant. He's a
and
hero.
We used to wear, our kit was yellow top and green shorts.
Like Norwich.
No, like Brazil, mate. Norwich. You weren't even taking the mic there, neither.
No. Is it green shorts or is it blue shorts?
No, yeah, Brazil's blue shorts, isn't it? No, they used to have green, though, innit? When, like, back in Pele's day.
Were they green?
Yeah.
You're not sure, are you?
I'm
you're more like
myself.
Norwich, aren't you?
I'm doubting myself a little bit.
All right. Okay. Another week in, world's a bit weird in 2020. Wouldn't you say so?
Yeah, and a lot's happened, mate. Like, I've been, you want to talk about that sort of emotional roller coaster. I feel like I've been on that in the last week. So we spoke last week. Was it Thursday last week we recorded the last episode, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. So then we went through last weekend. Now, over the weekend, I feel like I've sort of evened my kilter back out now. But over that weekend, do you remember it? It was a heavy weekend, mate. And I was like, I think it was Saturday when all the far right were rioting in London, right? And some of the stuff that you see online is really I found it really hard to deal with and process, because I know that difference of opinion is good, right? And you don't want to live in an echo chamber. And yet, I think we do have a problem as a nation where we've lost the ability to disagree with somebody and still like them, and have different opinions and still like them. But when it comes to race, it's different, isn't it? And, to have some people that you kind of respect and think highly of, seeing them and like, oh my God, you're posting that shit. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
So yeah, I think like emotionally, I went for a bit of a roller coaster, but like I say, I feel like I've leveled out somewhat since the weekend now.
I mean, we talked about this, didn't we? I mean, we were texting through Saturday. I'm normally a very upbeat, optimistic, hopeful person. I found Saturday really difficult.
Yeah.
Personally, I found it very difficult to watch what was unfolding in London. It just is a stark reminder, if you're not white, of the hate that you face. Like if I'd have walked into that crowd, I wouldn't have walked out in the same way unscathed. It's just obvious to me. And I think the thing that really, we've talked about this. We know there's racists, we know there's far right, we know there's neo-Nazis and all that stuff. But for them to be compelled enough to come and take a stand, and it was, we know that there was other elements, and there was football hooligans who were so frustrated at not being able to, because of lockdown, they weren't able to fight. That's just basically what they went to do, get pissed and fight. But it was very difficult. I found it. I said to you, didn't I? I'm really struggling today. But like you, I've come through the back of it. Then you see the positive responses. And actually, one of the things I want to talk about a bit later was one of the moments from that weekend that I think was just so powerful. But yeah, it's just a reminder of what we have to face. There's a lot of overt racism that came out on Saturday, but then there's a lot of people who didn't go there, but would probably be nodding their head, going, "Yeah, protect the statues, protect the flag, protect the statues, all that stuff." And I think one of the other things that really pissed me off was just the way that the media reported what the fascist thugs were doing, the police response to it compared to the police response and the media response to Black Lives Matter. And, we sort of expected it and knew it, but they didn't make enough of it, the fact that Black Lives Matter decided to, do the more responsible thing and stay out of the trouble, and not, and it was a powerful mobilization, and it just wasn't celebrated.
No, and even the fact that they, a lot of the media sort of portrayed it as they called them counter protesters. And let's get it straight, they weren't counter protesters. They were people writing. I'm telling you now that the main majority of them were football lads. 90% of them were football lads that went down for a fight, like without question. I got no doubt in my mind that that's what the main part of it was. Now there's
takes one to know one, eh, Josh?
Well, it does take one to know one, but this is the thing, right? So this week I've started. At first I'm like really opposed to it, and I'm always opposed to it. But like at first on like the Monday, I was a little bit going on social media and thinking, come on then. I remember a couple of people on LinkedIn that I had seen that had been really vocal about, the first, and I, the way I am, some of the posts last week, because on LinkedIn, some of the people weren't people that I was connected with, but they show up in it on your thing. And there was like one guy that come up and he was like really hammering some of the overspill from the Black Lives Matter protests, and saying how disgusting it was. And I was like, I've gone on his profile and I thought, well, I'll have a look at his posts, because and that was the first thing that he had posted about it. Yeah. And then he popped back up on my LinkedIn again. Somebody's obviously liked one of his things this week. And I've gone back on his profile and I thought, I need to see if this dude's as upset about the weekend, right? And nothing. He's not posted anything. So I was a bit like that in the week, where I'm like, come on then, where are you? I wanted to call everyone out. And then I sort of have come to that more thing when I go a bit deeper. And I think I ask myself, why have we got so many people in our country that so heavily connect themselves with somebody like Tommy Robinson, why they connect themselves in this far right way, why they think they're going to protect statues that most of them probably know nothing about.
Oh, actually, I think his name's Stephen Yaxley Lennon.
That's his name, isn't it? Yeah, because he's given himself a special
Doesn't
name.
Doesn't make him sound,
like a
right-wing enough.
Doesn't make him sound right-wing enough, yeah. What's his real name?
Stephen Yaxley Lennon.
He don't like the Yaxley, does he? That's what he's worried about, because he's far right, so he wants to be more English. Anyway, so then I'm like, what I want is change. What I would like to see is change. I don't like to see what I see. Why do I see it now? What I'm about to say in no way justifies anything of what we've seen. It's about trying to see things for what they really are. And I think a lot of what we see coming from the right side is a reflection of how much we have taken away from young people's services over the last 10 to 20 years, the cuts that have been made. And what you've got is loads of traumatized young, particularly boys, because it was men that was there mainly, young boys with no one to connect to. They get themselves lost in life. They become full of anger and hate. And then they attach that anger and hate to, they need something to feel proud of. So it's like, yeah, I become proud because I'm proud of being Great Britain, because they've got no loving adults in their lives to connect themselves to in a proper way. And then they find themselves in that far right attitude, getting, that they become extreme in their views because somebody like Tommy Robinson picks them up and uses their vulnerabilities, their hate, to attach it to something. So it's not in any way to justify it. I think it's sickening and it's disgusting, but it does that we come right back to education here and supporting our young people better. And you wouldn't, half of them people wouldn't end up there. I do believe that.
I think there's a saying, something like turkeys preparing Christmas dinner. Yeah, have you heard that sort of saying before? Yeah, like the notion being that, having fun, let's make Christmas dinner, and it's the turkeys making it. And then at the end, they get roasted and eaten with some gravy. I just had to throw the gravy. Can you imagine turkey without gravy? But the thing about what's going on with those, young men is they're fed by the media, right? They are instigated and they are poked and prodded towards having those views, and then you get people who just are trying to build their own self-importance, ego, power. Nigel Farage did it. Tommy Robinson. You got people on the left as well. It's not just right. It's just people jump on this stuff, right? And then what happens is they go wading in, right? Because their sources of information are quite minimal, right? It's not varied. They're not wanting to or prepared to kind of take a wider perspective. And then they go wading in, and then the media kind of turns on them. So it's kind of like it was always going to happen. I think that there is some truth to what you're saying, right? It's not justifying it; it's just identifying some of the reasons why there is this feeling. But the villains are the ones like the media who do it to drive their sales, and the villains are also the ones like the people that the preach haters, right? So it will either be the people like Tommy Robinson, or on the other side it will be the imams who stoke hate amongst young British Muslim men, that causes them to go and get kind of that they sort of take what is pure from the religion and turn it into evil and hate, right? So it's not just far right. People do it.
Extreme of any kind.
Extreme, exactly. Extremism, and then they lead them there because they are impressionable and they need something to take on. So there's definitely truth to the cause of it. I think though, as all of that understood, to see it live was pretty difficult. In London, my hometown, places that I have grown up around. It was just that you can walk past people and you just don't know what feelings they harbor, and that's an interesting concept.
Yeah, and it must have been horrible to watch that. And some of the stuff that you see online, particularly when people talk, there's a lot of like white people referring to, like, saying they. Do you know what I mean? Like as making, like, lumping everybody together. And then there's this, I saw some people saying, they're worried about the violence here, but what about the violence in their own country? Because they're so far removed, they think that any black person or brown person or whatever is not English, right?
Mm.
And that, that's some of that stuff that is willful ignorance as well. But it's also education, and it goes even deeper in what we're taught, right? And what we learn about Great Britain. Britain has the word great in front of it because we invaded and pillaged the rest of the world and took it over. And so when you go back through different eras, a lot of like people, not everyone, but a certain generation of like 60 and over really attach themselves to the fact that we are Great Britain, right? Nobody can take us. We're the strongest nation, all of that kind of stuff. And so what's being exposed is some of the dark nature of upon which that's built. And some people are feeling like their identity is being ripped away from them, particularly if they're having that identity pushed through them. If you've grown up through generation after generation of family that lacks in authenticity and knowing their true self and identity, then they create and attach to identities. And a lot of people within Britain, and particularly England, attach themselves to, we are Great Britain, yeah, and we're great because we invaded all the colonies and took them all over, yeah, and we don't want to face that. You look at the Churchill thing, yeah, what you'll notice is a lot of people in England, they want to forget the darker side of Churchill. They're like, we can't forget our history, we can't erase our history, he saved the world and all of that stuff, and they don't want to hear about the ugly stuff that he did because it takes away a part of their identity. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Mm.
And so they won't look at the nuance. They won't say, they won't hear people that are saying, look, we're not saying Churchill did all bad. He saved, everyone from the fascists and all that stuff. But let's look at the truth. And when you look at the truth, there was the dark side, and people don't want to do that, right? Because they identify with that notion of just being inherently great.
I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I just I don't know whether Churchill harbored and communicated racist views, or did he actually take steps to embolden those into actions? So, like, did he have racist policies?
Yeah, wasn't a load of people within India killed because of him? He had them all killed and raped and pillaged.
I didn't know that.
I'm not. I can't be 100% sure on that, but there was something that I've seen online that's saying that he. I'm going to try and in a certain year he had a certain part of India killed or something like that. Like he did a load of like pillage and all that stuff over there.
When he was obviously responsible for a part of government.
Yeah.
See, because I've seen things where he has talked about master races and inferior races and things like that. So
yeah,
there's evidence to point that he had a perspective. I think I was going to ask you, do you think? So let's we'll have a look into that, right? And maybe talk about it next time. But do you think his statue should be removed?
I think what I have to say is that I don't care enough either way. That's my personal opinion. If you pushed me to give you an answer, do I think his statue should be removed? No, probably not. If you gave the decision to me, probably not. However, like we've just highlighted, I don't know the full story. I just did a bit of Googling while you were talking, and he did talk about hating the Indian race and thinking that they were, a ghastly religion. And he did believe that a lot of people were born as slaves to serve the superior race. So when you sort of say that, like I've just said that, then it doesn't sound very good, does it? But he did lead World War II, right? Which took us to freedom. And I don't think that could be ignored. But then I've always put up the defense of, I would bring him up again, somebody like Jimmy Savile, who did loads and loads of charity work, but he was what he was, right? So you kind of dispel all of that with him. So if it was left to me, I would not take his statue down, because I think it's there because we are free because of what he led.
Okay.
What about you?
I don't think it should be taken down.
Yeah.
But let me caveat with you, like you, I don't know enough. So let me say that, you know, I'm gonna deep dive into it before we come back next week, and then, you know, you just ask me again next week. But right now, we are talking about statues, and we're not talking about the right things. We're not talking about what matters. Every minute we start talking about statues, where the conversation is going away from the important stuff about change, about people's experience today. You know, I think what happened in Bristol was, I applaud that. I'm happy about that, because that was a celebration of oppression, and shame on Bristol Council for not doing something about it. The people had to face it, you know, and so, and the city's infrastructure was built upon the profiteering of slavery and then celebrated. So that had to come down. So what my understanding coming to this was, you know, that Churchill had some significantly racist views, and obviously he led the world to victory in World War II, and that's what he's celebrated for. And he is part of Great Britain's fabric, and there's a lot of pride in it. So the minute you start to try and pull that down, you take the conversation completely away. Should we talk more about the atrocities or his views? For sure. But the minute you start to try and pull down something that is so strong in the middle ground, you start pushing the people who are in the middle ground to the right. The people that are sitting in towns up and down the country are going, how dare they do that? I side with this side. And we're playing into their hands. Right now, we should be having the conversation about, how do you end systemic racism?
Yeah, exactly.
For black people and people of color. And actually, we're talking about boxing up, you know, statues. I'm not saying that the feelings behind it are not important. They are, but the minute you start trying to pull down these sorts of things, you just start to create a conversation that you just don't need to.
Exactly. And this should be about people at the end of the day, right? Not a statue. That's why, you know, when you first asked me, I was like, if you told me it had been torn down, I wouldn't lose sleep over it. And if you told me it was staying up, it wouldn't bother me either. But what I do care about is people, you know, and let's bring it back. When we were texting the weekend and you said, I don't feel great. I'm turning the news off. That's what I fucking don't like. Whatever's causing that, that's what I don't like. That's what I want to not happen, is good people. And I just use you as an example because you're one of what would have been millions, right? Good people feeling like just because of the color of their skin that they feel down and they've got to turn the news off in their own country. That's what we should be talking about. And I think the statues is, you know, it's a stupid side story, really, that's irrelevant. However, what I would also add on that is the fact that we've just had that discussion like we did, and you know, we both don't know the full answers to what Churchill really did. Shows that we need to do some more digging ourselves, right, and understand and learn that. But then I would also say that, you know, we should be taught the truth when we're younger, and we're not taught the truth. I did this, I think I brought it up before, but I listened to Red Jamoa do his talk, and that was about bias and stuff. And when he was explaining the stuff on there, right down to the map and how Great Britain's put in the middle of the map when it's not in the middle of the map, and it's made bigger than what it is, and America's made bigger than Africa on a map when it ain't bigger than Africa, and all that stuff, right down to those subtleties. We should be taught the truth, right? Not a version of the truth that keeps white people as the ultimate race, which is what happens at the moment.
Well, the challenge is you'll never get alignment, right? Because someone's version of history is always the other side of the other person's version of history.
Yeah.
So if you want to, if a Western version of history is victorious and it makes countries bigger, then there's the other version of history as seen from the other side, right? So whether you take a more Eastern focused version of history and a Western, there's always going to be dispute. So I think we've got to understand it all, you know.
Yeah, but there's always facts. Yeah, there's always facts in it. It's always facts. So we should always be presented with the facts.
Yeah. You mentioned good people on Saturday. All the good people that were affected by what was going on. I wanted to pull out someone who I thought was an extremely good person. His name was Patrick Hutchinson.
Yeah.
You know who he was?
The guy who pulled out.
Yeah.
The guy who pulled out the right wing the right wing rioter.
Yeah.
Pulled him out of the crowd, right?
Yeah.
To help him.
Speaking of, we spoke of iconic images earlier of the man standing in front of the tank in Tiananmen Square. I think one of the iconic images that has emerged from the last few weeks is Patrick picking up an EDL right-wing fascist thug that was probably going to get killed, right? Certainly going to get severely beaten because him and his idiot mates rushed a crowd and then he fell and they left him, which shows a lot about that loyalty. And Patrick Hutchinson picked him up on his shoulders and walked him to safety into the arms of the police. Now, understand this idiot has still not thanked Patrick Hutchinson, so deep is his hate that he hasn't he hasn't contacted him. That's what I read yesterday. But what was brilliant about and it wasn't just Patrick Hutchinson, by the way. He was the one that obviously moved the person to safety, but it was his friends as well, and they had all made a pact to support their sorry, that was just my boy just came in and out. That was brilliant.
And then
I was just like, oi,
the old
oi,
arm went out to the left of the screen.
That was brilliant. He sort of froze for a second. But yeah, so it was Patrick Hutchinson that carried him out, but like him and his friends decided we have to protect our people. We have to stop this kicking off. And they went in with the most powerful mentality, which is we're not going to get caught in it. We're going to keep an eye on what's going on. What was amazing was, and I wrote this on a friend's post, on a friend's Instagram post, Ben Lindsay, who I also gave a shout out to on LinkedIn yesterday. He in that moment of chaos and anger and massively high, intense feelings, humanity prevailed, care, common sense prevailed, and he picked him up and he took him because, this guy would have been severely hurt. But also, if this guy would have been severely hurt or even worse, killed, then it would have turned so much negative attention onto Black Lives Matter that it would have changed the narrative, would have changed the story. And so what he was able to do, whether it was intentional or unintentional, was to keep the focus on the right things. And then, and finally, as I said in my response to the post, they just made a fool of themselves, these guys. They, like these EDL idiots and these football lads, they basically started drinking, they got into fights with each other, with the police, and they lost the PR game, like total muppets.
There was some terrible scenes. Did you see when they broke into Hyde Park?
Yeah, I did.
And there was just like a load of friends sat around having a picnic, and they like kicked all their stuff and was like shouting at them to go away and stuff. I could have told you they were going to do all that. I think I said last week they'll go up there. I said it was a bit worrying that they'll all turn up.
You did, and I remember we talked about it. It's like, Tommy Robbins can only ever get 100 people together,
I had a feeling that based on the fact that football lads, because there's something called the Football Lads Alliance.
Anyway, can I just bring us back, because I don't want to talk about them.
No,
and I know
you're right.
I want to talk about Patrick Hutchinson.
Yeah,
and what a hero he was and his friends were for doing what they did. Do you think he did the right thing?
What, and carrying matey out?
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I do think he'd done the right thing. Yeah, and I think that, you know, the fact that most of the Black Lives Matter people stayed away, didn't they, originally on the Saturday as well, when they knew that all them people were going to turn up. I think they absolutely done the right thing, and it really highlights that Black Lives Matter is a movement that's based around a cause. It's not just a group that want to get together to have a tear up. It was the Black Lives Matter have a cause, and they're following that cause, and they're seeing that cause out. Yeah, and that's why that picture is symbolic of that, right?
Yeah,
that's the way that I do it, and it's a banging picture as well.
So
because
good.
he proper looks like a, I don't know, mate. Like he could be like a suit. It looks like out of a film, innit? It looks like
he looks like a superhero. Definitely.
It does look
man.
like a superhero, mate, in his face and everything.
And the guy on his shoulders just looks like a total mess of a human. So it's just, you know, it's perfect. It's a perfect image. So what else has sort of surprised you this week?
Can we talk about another good person?
Yeah.
Who, by the way, happens to also be black as well.
Yeah.
Marcus Rashford.
Oh yeah.
Mate.
Legend.
Mate, there's a double-edged sword on that though. The positive is the fact that he's done that, and the negative is the fact that he's even had to do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But for him to do what he's done, you know, he's raised 20 million since we went into lockdown for like a charity that he set up himself that was to help feed hungry children, because he knows what it's like when he's younger to be hungry. And then he wrote an open letter to Boris Johnson, and you know,
what was the first reaction to the letter? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it was rejected. And so, did you? I want to talk about this quickly. You know, I feel like I always bring up the negative, but Katie Hopkins, everyone knows who Katie Hopkins is, yeah. She tweeted, I'm going to paraphrase it because I don't know if I'll get it exactly right. Dear Marcus Rashford, do you not think these women should have thought about whether they could afford to have children before they had them? You can pay for their food if you want to, but I don't want to. Thanks, Katie.
Just to point out, wasn't it interesting that she just blamed the women?
Yeah.
What was that about?
Yeah, I don't know, but she definitely did say mums, I think, or the women. I hope I'm right on that.
Yeah.
But I'm sure she did. Now, what a disgusting statement to make, right? But I want to point something out that I think it's important to point out. And it's going to sound like a dig because it is a dig, but I think it's a worthy dig. Boris Johnson agreed with her, because originally he rejected it. He said no. And why else did he say no? What's the whatever reason could there be for him to say no, other than he thinks, well, they don't deserve it, they should have thought about it? You can say money, but he's found the money, so the money's there. And what was it hidden behind? Was he found it down the back of the TV? He didn't care enough about it. He did not care enough about it, right? And so he basically, we can all jump on the thing of hating Katie Hopkins, and I think we should, because she's an idiot. But next time you go and vote, right? Think about that when you vote. Because Boris Johnson agreed with her. He did agree with her. And that's what's really sickening, is the fact that he made a U-turn, which is, so it's good to see a U-turn. I'll be the first to say, when a politician changes their mind, that's what we want. We want them to listen to the public.
What do you think was the reason that he changed his mind?
Because of backlash.
Yeah, because it's not suddenly grown a conscience and he cares about it.
And you know another thing, when he turned that letter down, you know what he was in the middle of having done? His plane, you know about this?
Yeah.
His grey plane, he was having it painted up with the Union Jack on it. Because he didn't like it being grey. But he was going to let kids go hungry during the summer.
Yeah.
That's mental. That's mental. But listen, Katie Hopkins got loads of stick on Twitter. And it was quite nice to watch.
I mean, deserved. What do you think of Marcus Rashford?
Well, I think he's an absolute legend, mate. I think he's an absolute legend for what he's done. I think he epitomizes what a lot of footballers are like, by the way. A high percentage of footballers are like. It just doesn't get reported. I think footballers get a bit too much of an unfair stick sometimes.
Well, it's interesting you say that. Firstly, I think you've pulled that that stat out of thin air because you just don't know, right? Like you just pulled it out of thin air.
Was it a
Like,
stat? I suppose it was. Yeah.
Well, you know, I don't know about the high percentage, but I do believe that there are they are misrepresented in the media as being flash boys who just spend money, and there's some good hearted people. So, for example, Jordan Henderson led, the kind of the campaign of captains to raise money for frontline workers on the NHS. I know you're smiling because you know I want to get a Liverpool player in because I can't give it.
And
all
I
to
hate Jordan
Man United,
Henderson,
right? But you got to give him credit for that. Now, what I would say is working class lads, right? And what's really powerful is that they haven't forgotten where they've come from, right? So I think, there's something there that it doesn't matter where you kind of end up. There are some people that will never forget where they come from, right? And I think that's really powerful. But what is really clear about Marcus Rashford's experience is that it really formed who he was, like it really, and he seems just like a very humble, decent human being.
He does,
Because he went about, that money he raised, the charity, he did it very quietly. He didn't make a big deal of it. And I think he does a lot of work. And so you do have a lot of footballers that do a lot of work in the background. Sadio Mane, I know I keep talking about Liverpool players, but,
mate, give it up, mate. I'll bring up some Swindon players, shall I, that do a lot of charity work?
There's no good things about Swindon players. No, but listen, the point is...
Talk about Jamie Carragher, shall we? Spitting in a kid's face in that time out of the car. Remember that? You want to talk about that?
Why would you have to bring that up?
Well, because you want to keep talking about Liverpool. No,
I was talking about doing good, and you just... I can see
Jamie
what
Carragher,
happens.
who epitomises Liverpool Football Club.
Well, I've talked to you about that at the time. I thought it was disgusting.
Yeah, I know. I'm joking.
So what's your point?
What about it?
Now,
Liverpool Football Club are a joke.
Because you've just moved the conversation away from...
No, let's go back to
what we were doing. No, it's too late now. No, Sadio Mane... what he does, in terms of giving money, investing, building infrastructure, he doesn't try and draw a limelight to it, right? And there's a lot of people, not just footballers, a lot of people that do that behind the scenes. I think that's really, really.
Have you ever seen that picture that's gone about with Sadio Mane and he's got his phone and the screen's broke on it?
Yeah.
I think it's a bit stupid, but it's a nice point there. Highlights. Have you seen it?
Where he's carrying around
Sadio Mane's got a broken screen on his phone. Why is his screen broke? Because he doesn't care enough to get it fixed. He'd rather use the money to help people.
See, there's a reason I brought him up. Because it's true.
Did you see, by the way, on Rashford, did you see your man, and this is going to be ironic that I can't remember his name. Is it Matt Hancock?
Yeah, I mean, that says it all.
Huh?
It says it all.
Is it Matt
Daniel
Hancock?
Rashford?
Pardon?
Where he called him Daniel Rashford.
He called him Daniel Rashford, didn't he?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a serious point there. Like, someone's just done an incredible thing. And I think Matt Hancock's, like, he's just one of those...
knobs.
Well, no, it's not even that. I don't think he's very smart. He's just one of those people that's just managed to get
in his defense, and I don't want to defend him, but in his defense, he did get it right twice during the same conversation before and after. So it was only a little bit of a slip up. It must have been one of them when he come off and someone said to him, you called him Daniel, and he must have thought, oh my days, what have I done?
Oh, can I go back and re-record it, please? We've all been there. No, but I think it sort of points to so okay, fair enough. So he got it right 2 times, but messed it up the last time. But I do think that there's sometimes there's something around a lack of care or responsibility with names that don't sound like normal vernacular. So my name is spelled Hassan, right? Mm-hmm. And the amount of times I get emails with double S, or I used to be called Hussein. Like my name's not Hussein, like, and so and I'll correct, and I'll do it, you know, and then it will come back again. And then in the past, I'd just leave it. I wouldn't, you know, I just let them get on with it. But now I'll correct, you know, because it's not right.
I want to ask you a question on that. Now you brought it up, right? What do you think somebody should do when they don't know how to say your name?
How do I pronounce your name?
Yeah, say that. All right, cool. Because when I do, like, when I'm delivering webinars, right, I often get names come up, and I want to interact with them, and in my head I start going, "Oh my god, I don't know how to say their name."
Yeah.
And so I give it an attempt. So, like with you, I would go,
Hussein.
I would go, is it Hussein? Hussein? And then I say, have I said that right? And then because I'm often interacting with people, they're typing in the chat, I will attempt their name, and then I will say, I hope I've said that right. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Is that right? A way to do it?
I would ask. And actually, I had a conversation recently with somebody, and I wasn't sure, and I did what you did, and I did it twice, and I got corrected, and I felt like an idiot. And actually,
What did you say though? I'm not sure how to say your name.
No, I didn't. I just went with what I thought was how it should be pronounced, and I didn't get it right. And so I think, but I knew that I should check before, you know, going in, and I didn't. We just rolled into conversation.
It must be frustrating because I know it's like people often call me leg end, and I have to correct them that it's not a gut, it's a j, it's a j sound.
I thought you were going to say Joshua.
That's not my name. So I say my name's. This happens to me. I say, "Oh, my name's Josh," and they go, "Oh, is it actually Joshua?" And I go, "No," and they go, "Yeah, but what's on your birth certificate?" And I go, "It's just Josh on my birth certificate." I get that all the time. Sorry, I interrupted you rudely.
No. That's it. That's the end of the segment. What's next?
I reckon we're probably, I don't know. Is there anything else that's happened this week, anything else that you've seen come up that you thought, you know what, we need to talk about that?
No, I think we've covered everything that's happened in the world this week.
I wanted to bring Rashford up because I think it's incredible what he's done. Oh, I did want to ask you, right? Go back to the race thing, right? And just to a slightly difficult conversation. You know the like Little Britain, they've had some of the episodes, they've cut some of the episodes of Little Britain, they've cut some from Faulty Towers.
Yeah.
There's been some other shows that are cut, but they're the two that I can think of. What do you think about that?
It's the same as the statue thing. Like, you know, like it was.
It's kind of irrelevant in the larger context.
In the bigger picture.
Do you think that some people on the right have done that? I'm going to go back into conspiracy theories here.
What, that they're just trying to stoke up to
get everyone angry? No, actually, the Basil Fawlty, the Fawlty Towers one, uses the N word, and I don't think he uses it in a very nice way. Was you offended? Like,
does he?
I don't think it's him that uses it, but the N word's used in it in a certain episode. Were you offended not by how rubbish Little Britain was, because I know it was rubbish. Right, I thought it was rubbish anyway. It was like 3 sketches just repeated over and over again. Were you, as a brown man, right? Were you offended when you watched it? Just a genuine question, with not loaded.
You just made a massive assumption there.
What that?
I watched Little Britain. I have no idea.
Oh, you've never seen it?
I saw.
What about the other one then? I've just remembered, which was Bo Selector.
Yeah. At the time, I think I was saying this to you, or maybe I was saying to someone else. I remember at the time thinking, "Oh, that's like that." I remember thinking, "Oh, that's like that sort of blown up, sort of stereotypical, negative connotations or features." But I thought it was more painful just to see, like, you know, Craig David being taken the mick out of. I just thought it was a bit relentless, and it wasn't very nice. But actually, as I think about it now, it's exactly right to be remorseful for that stuff. It's like, you know, because, you know, I never really found it funny. But actually,
no,
if you look at he's done there. He's, you know, he blew up, you know, features that have always been bandied about around black people, right?
Yeah,
You know,
never thought of it in that context. Yeah,
and that, you know, like negative, like animations and cartoonography and all that sort of stuff from the 50s, 60s, 70s. You used to always do that stuff. So I don't think it was genuinely intended. I think he was just trying to, you know, do his show. But that's the big part of the problem
that's the
that we've
thing.
been talking
That's the
about.
thing.
That's the
That's the
whole
thing,
thing.
mate. Yeah.
So so yeah, you know, I think we should be. I mean, look, we need to study, and we need to, and we need to understand, and we need to understand the impact on people. I didn't know the N word was used. I thought it was just, you know, it was about, you know, a 70s show with a guy talking about winning the war and that sort of stuff. So I can understand that that might offend German people, but right now in the scheme of things, it takes us away from the conversation about Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying it's not important to address the impact on German people, if that was the thing, but, you know, my philosophy is,
Josh is
you
always
know,
right.
other than that, which is I rarely think about that. The you know, like, it's important to understand the past, but there's not a lot you can do about the past.
Yeah.
Like, you can't unwrite it, but
Mm.
you can etch the future. You
Mm.
can define the future. You can influence the future. You can put all of your energy into making sure that the children and their children's children and their children's children don't have to live in a world where some of this blatant racism, or not so blatant racism, you know, it just doesn't feed society in their lifetime as it has done ours.
Mm.
So it's important to look at that and try and do some correction if it's necessary, but not spend all your time doing that while you should be focusing on the future. That's my philosophy.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I like that. It's good. Yeah. Good. I'm glad I brought it up. I think we're at reasons to be cheerful, Hass.
Yes, we are. I think you should go first, because I sort of gave away my reasons to be cheerful, which was Patrick Hutchinson and or Marcus Rashford. So I'm going to have to think about one. So you go first.
Yeah, I don't mind if you use them too. I don't mind, as if I'm the ruler here and I'm the one that
You're the
makes
king. You're the
I'm
king
the
of
king.
reasons to be cheerful.
Yeah, yeah. Look, mine's football, mate. Mine is football. The fact that football's back. I fell asleep on watching the first game that I put on last night.
So cheerful. You're so
but,
cheerful you fell asleep.
But listen, it's the fact that it's back is massive. It's a massive thing in my life. It's a massive thing in the way that I interact with people. I think it brings so many people together. The fact that it's on every single night. My daughter, who's like nearly 4, loves sitting and watching football with me, right? Because I get animated. I think that's why she likes it. So she's already said tonight she wants to sit down and watch the game with me. She won't watch it all, but the fact that it'll be on, and like I have to pretend to cheer the teams and stuff. I think it's like Exeter playing or something tonight. But yeah, the fact that it's back, mate. I think we've been waiting a long while for it, and the fact it's going to be on every day for the foreseeable, I think, is a definite reason to be cheerful.
Okay, I haven't thought of anything really, so I'm going to just pick Patrick Hutchinson, because I think he just properly made me feel happy to be a human, and people like him and his friends and everyone else that's stepping up, that isn't kind of, you know, isn't caught on an iconic photo, but, you know, people like stepping up and holding space and giving leadership. Yeah, that's a reason to be cheerful.
Incredible, and he's the best way to end. He's the best thing to end on.
Definitely. And Mr. Barrett.
And Mr. Barrett. Yeah, I should have put Mr. Barrett in
Let's
there.
not forget Mr. Barrett. Another hero, unspoken hero. If in doubt, kick it out.
If in doubt, put it out. What a way to end.
Put it out. Okay.
Hopefully next week we may potentially have a co-host. I don't know yet, but I think it's definitely something to think about. Remember, we're on Instagram at 115 miles pod, and please make sure you've left a review. I haven't seen any yet, so make sure you're doing it.
Anything else to say?
I wanted to leave it for you to leave one of your little bye for nows at the end that you normally do. See you again.
Ta-ta!
See you again. Bye-bye. Bye. Bye. Bye.
You got to leave that in.
Yeah, I am. Yeah.